tell you, I was watching Sky earlier today and I saw a package from a foreign news service that we were playing out mid-morning. And it features a European Union president who was really addressing this migrant crisis flooding into Italy and then obviously through Europe. Have a listen to what she has said in language that seems very familiar.
We have an obligation as part of the international community, but we will decide who comes to the European Union and under what circumstances, and not the smugglers and traffickers.
Familiar, Keith?
Boy.
Peter, I think that's very familiar to me and many Australians. And Australia's always had a great advantage in the fact that we're an island. You know, we have a wall of oceans to help us firstly defend our nation and then, of course, stop people who are trying to break the rules to come here illegally by boat. Tony Abbott did a great job.
Yeah.
If he's over in Europe, they might want to pick his brains to get a few ideas. But I think the first thing the Europeans need to do is they need to decide that they actually want to stop people coming in illegally. And I'm not sure that that's their position. Now, there's always been a lot of migration and challenges in Europe with world wars and everything else. But if you want to stop people, you have to make real decisions and take real action.
Spot on. And of course, Gary, you'll remember well, the Howard government, then the Abbott government were pilloried by the lefties. The EU's full of lefties. They now have read the writing on the wall. They're now prepared to do what's required. Not saying we're against migration. We're not against refugees. Australia's incredibly generous. But we're generous on our terms and we're not going to give up our sovereignty.
And Peter, we have always decided who comes to Australia, and we've always decided on the terms under which we set that, because we value our migrants. We value those who come here. And some of my best friends, people have come here as refugees, and some of them applied on shore, some of them have come through the system. But either way, they said, for heaven's sake, keep the standard high, because it really does embellish our role, our justification for being here. So it gives them a status. So if we value the people that come to Australia under the terms we set, we should keep our standards high. And if we value our national sovereignty, we've got to have strong borders. But that doesn't seem to be Labor's and the left's view on these things, which is pretty sad.
Well, just on that quickly, Gary, 454,000 people have come over the last 12 months to the end of March. We've got a housing crisis, no doubt about that. Why such a massive intake in 1 year?
And we've got people like Brickworks Australia saying they can't even find people to make the bricks, let alone lay the bricks. So I thought we'd have to have, because of the lack of investment in things like water infrastructure, it was going to be bring your own water for things like the 2032 Olympic Games, BYO water. But now it's got to be BYO your own house. It's, if you could put the camper van on the back of a boat and bring it over here, maybe you'll have a place to stay. Peter, this is outrageous. And we used to build this country up because of the migrants we brought here. We used to plan for that, but now we don't care. And the so-called infrastructure Prime Minister, well, I don't think he could fix a pothole. That's where he's at. He's thrown up the white flag and he doesn't want to do anything. What is this bloke doing? He just simply doesn't care about Australia today or into the future.
Well, it's not just him. I mean, Catherine King, the infrastructure minister, Keith, she's out there today saying that a whole lot of projects will either be axed or delayed. There's a $33 billion blowout. Nothing much, she says, is going to be added to that list of new projects for the next 10 years. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I reckon people in regional Australia, they're going to be the ones that miss out. Their projects will be axed and the money diverted into Labor-held, Green-held seats in the city.
That's it.
Peter, we called it on your show. You called it, I called it, Gary called it. The moment the review was announced, that was the end for the infrastructure pipeline, particularly in regional areas. And here we are. We've seen that come to fruition. Catherine King has no interest in the regions whatsoever. They'll only be supporting the areas where they vote Labor. That's why they've got so many more people coming in terms of immigration, because they want them to move to the cities because potentially they vote Labor. And I saw Peter Walsh out today, the leader of the Nats in Victoria, and he said something which is exactly right. If you invest in country roads, you save country lives. And for anyone that's out there, if you want to increase your risk on a road, get yourself on the Bruce Highway in Queensland. Now, we spent a lot of money upgrading the Bruce, and I'm really concerned that some of that will now be cut, and that has a direct impact on the people I represent. And you know it well, Peter. It's something
disgusting.
that just has to have more money spent on it.
Spot on. Bob Brown out today saying Labor has, or Labor specifically Tanya Plibersek, the Environment Minister, he's really gone after her. He said she's abandoned her responsibilities about conservation. What do you think, Gary?
Well, she's very vulnerable to the Greens pushed into central cities around the country, and Tanya Plibersek is on the Greens hit list, so she'll jump at all sorts of shadows here, just as the Prime Minister did in his inner city seat a few years ago when he was doing deals with the Liberal Party to get himself across the line ahead of the Greens, trying to knock him off. So, you know, by any measure, Tanya Plibersek is way out of her depth. She's been in Parliament far too long. 1998, she was elected. She's had a turn. She's run out of ideas, run out of puff. Time to go, Tanya. And the Greens may well help you out the door. Pretty simple.